You'd be surprised the amount of people that you ask in America to point out where Ireland is on a map. They point over towards like Mexico or someplace. Like they've just no idea where where it is.
Four-leaf clover.
Four-leaf clover is probably an American construction. I'm gonna say it's probably not Irish. Am I right about that? Yeah. So shamrocks are three. It's like a little clover with three. I think it was used by Saint Patrick to talk about the Father, the Holy Spirit, and what's the other one? Father, the Holy Spirit, and the Son. Yeah, I'm not religious anymore. So yeah, that's the difference. Americans probably confuse the two things.
The GAA.
Oh, big time Irish. It's our national sport. It's like both Gaelic football, hurling, and handball, which you get bonus points if you know that handball is included. So very much Irish. And I played both Gaelic football and hurling growing up. You can't really make a career out of playing Gaelic football because it's an amateur sport, but it's a national sport. So that like all of the players that you idolise growing up, they play a match on a Sunday to 80,000 people and then they go back to work on Monday, which I think is pretty unique. I think if you went to Ireland in the summer, you would see lots of boys and girls going around in what we would call tiny shorts, but they're just Gaelic football shorts. They are the standardised length of GAA football shorts.
Gaelga.
Gaelga Irish. Yeah. Gaelga is our national language. It's spoken today in areas called Gaeltachts, which are kind of pockets of the country that would be the language that you would use, say, going to school, going to the shops. But I think in the last couple of years there's been a resurgence, and you see like the Kneecap Boys doing it using the language in their film and things like that. So it's having a resurgence, which is great because it was in decline for a second there. I can speak a bit of Gaeilge. My primary school that I went to was all through Irish, and I did my junior cert, which is not the SATs, the one below that, all through Irish. But then it's kind of like any language, it kind of disappears a little bit when you don't use it. But the bit of Irish that I have, I would be very proud of. You'd be surprised the amount of people that you ask in America who have no, if you were to ask them to point out where Ireland is on a map, they point over towards like Mexico or someplace. Like they've just no idea where where it is.
Top of the morning.
And not Irish. I feel like we're going to come to a lot of like American constructions of Irish things, and that's not something any Irish person would say. Things that American people think is Irish are like leprechauns, four-leaf clovers, top of the mornings, Irish coffees. I would say we don't drink as much, so those would be the main ones, I would say. I'm sure more will come up.
A lock-in.
Big Irish, yeah. So a lock-in is when the bar is closed, but if you know the owner of the bar, he'll kick out, say, say 70% of the bar, and then 30% of you will be left. They'll close the curtains. It normally involves like sing-songs afterwards. If you can come across a lock-in, I would highly recommend. They're like normally around like Irish weddings or funerals. Irish people, I think, are pretty famous for their funerals. They're actually like just big celebrations, unless there's like an innate tragedy involved, but there's lots of drinking and lock-ins and yeah, weddings and funerals. I think Irish people do pretty well.
Halloween.
Irish, apparently. I only found out about this today. They love Halloween in America, don't they? Like they big into it. We call it Iha Hauna in Ireland.
St. Patty's Day.
No. Oh. Again, I think Americans do St. Patrick's Day, which is Irish, not St. Patty's Day. I mean, that's a good holiday in Ireland. It's always fun. It's an excuse for lots of like kind of like underage drinking. Like you kind of escape for the day and then try and return home and appear sober to your parents. It's kind of a rite of passage in Ireland.
An Irish goodbye.
Oh, big advocate of an Irish goodbye. I'm going to stick to my guns and say that it's Irish. If you're at like a party with lots of people, if you have naturally avoidant tendencies, goodbyes can be difficult. So I would tend to, if you're close enough with the people, you can kind of just, when your time has come to say goodnight, you will just, instead of being an evolved human being, you will just head for the exit and tell everybody the next day that you didn't say goodbye.
Having the crack, spelled C-R-A-C-K.
No, not Irish. Not Irish. It's spelled C-R-A-I-C, incredibly Irish. But I think it would get confusing if you spelled it C-R-A-C-K. What's the crack? We'd use the word crack for fun, or like what's the story? That it's a kind of versatile phrase. Yeah, what's the crack? It confuses Americans because they think it's probably something to do with something else. I appreciate the attempt though. It's Irish. It's kind of this is what I would say that spelling would mean.
The Bowron.
The Bowron, Irish. It's like a little hand drum. I would say is quite a stirring instrument. Yeah, very Irish. A session is a like music session, so you'd have like fiddle players, bowron players, guitarists, tin whistle players, and they'd kind of sit in the corner of a pub and just start kind of, it feels like they're improvising, but they'll just play music for hours and hours, normally associated with a lock-in.
Andrew Scott.
Don't get me started on this. This is a thing that British media outlets tend to do when Irish people have a moment of like success or a moment in the sun. You'll like read some headline being like, actor Andrew Scott or actor Saoirse Ronan or Jessie Buckley have been nominated for X award. But it's always around that kind of subject. So Andrew Scott, very much Irish. Jessie Buckley, very much Irish. Saoirse Ronan, Irish. All of these amazing Irish actors.
Daisy Edgar-Jones.
Honorary Irish person. Daisy has Irish family. So we're doing the reverse. I claim her as Irish. One of the few non-Irish actors to do the Irish accent as well as anybody I've ever seen. So I'm gonna do this. Depends on the day. Irish, not Irish, yeah.
Gladiators.
Gladiators are not Irish. Very much Roman. Yeah. People should be very excited for the film coming out. I've seen it now. The scale of it is kind of something that I haven't seen in years now, that kind of old school studio picture style of big filmmaking. But I think it ties to the kind of spirit of the first one, where it's got these massive set pieces, but ultimately it's a character drama that's got all of the bells and whistles that come with Ridley Scott at his best. So yeah, I'm super excited for people to see it now. What's the key to becoming a gladiator? There's lots of training that goes into it. Gym training, sword training. You kind of got to get into a mentality that I would have associated with kind of playing sports before. Like there's a kind of robustness required, yeah. I think all of the cast, when we heard that Denzel was going to be in it, were kind of like blown away. I feel very proud to say that, like, regardless of whatever happens, I can say that I was in scenes opposite Denzel Washington. Having seen Pedro's work for a couple of years now, I think people should be really excited for what he does and the kind of gravitas that he brings to his role, and he plays it with such ease and nobility. So that's the benefit of stepping into something that has the legacy that Gladiator does. It instills you with a good, healthy dose of fear, which is great.
The look of the Irish.
That feels like a leprechaun-y statement, doesn't it? I think historically Irish people haven't been that lucky. Like if you look at certain things, but I would say, yeah, not Irish. What's something that's inherently Irish? Supermax is very Irish. Supermax is like an Irish McDonald's. The best Supermax is in Galway. If anybody's ever heading out that way, I would recommend a chicken burger from Supermax.